Welcome to Nicholas Hood III Ministries, a ministry of hope, spiritual inspiration, personal power guided by Christian love. May the power of God's Holy Spirit fall upon you as you sit back and enjoy today's program. I introduce you now to Pastor Nicholas Hood III.
Welcome to Nick Hood Ministries. I'm Nick Hood, pastor of the Plymouth United Church of Christ, and today I want to talk about doing something worthwhile in your life. I have a family who is going to be with me today that I'm going to talk about a medical mission that they have organized and continue to this day in Ethiopia, modern day Ethiopia. And it's one of the most worthwhile things I've ever been a part of, one of the most worthwhile things I've ever seen. And I encourage you, pick up a phone, call a friend, tell them there's a very interesting program on the Word Network right now, and it's going to begin in just a minute. Stick around, and we'll be right back.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and His power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
Again, welcome to Nick Hood Ministries. I have with me today a family that's doing really worthwhile work. And you know, in life, I'm a believer. If you find anything that's worthwhile, you ought to hold on to it, grab hold of it, and just try to build on it. And my guests today are Dr. Ingida Asfaw, who is originally born in Ethiopia, and his wife, Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw, right here from the Detroit area. And welcome to my program. Dr. Asfaw, I've been so impressed with the work that you've done in Ethiopia. You are a trained thoracic surgeon. You're at the top of your game. Right here in the United States, you're almost like the musical artist Prince. If people just call you by your first name and say, Dr. Ingida, everybody knows who they're talking about. And you've done so many great things, but you've created a medical mission in Ethiopia. And I want to take a few moments to go back all the way to where that started. But before I ask you about what prompted you to get involved with a medical mission, I understand that your wife, Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw, is the one who came up with the idea of the Ethiopian North American Health Professions Association. Hello, and Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw, tell us about how did ENAPA, Ethiopian North American Health Professions Association, how did that idea grow?
Okay. Well, first of all, I didn't come up with the idea of ENAPA. We worked together, to come up with that title. But how it came about was January 29th or 30th, 1983.
83?
83.
Okay.
I had given birth to our third child, Philemon. And I was watching television.
And we're going to be hearing from him a little later.
Yes, I was watching TV, and they showed the images of the famine in Ethiopia, with the children starving, it was just, if you recall, those images never escape your mind. So when Ingida came to visit that night, it just pulled at my heartstrings. I couldn't stop the tears. And I said, dear, we've got to do something to help the people in Ethiopia. And Ingida was quiet for a while, and he says, when the time is right, we will do that. So fast forward 12 years later, there was a similar problem. I think was it the Derg or something. Something was going on in Ethiopia that was not positive for the people. And we had a dear friend of ours, Tesfaye Kabedi, was visiting that night. I don't know if you've met him or if you've met him. He's no longer with us. They were sitting, we were at our kitchen table, and I said to Tesfaye and Ingida, I said, you've got to do something. You've got to do something to help the people in Ethiopia. So Ingida looked at me, and he said, the time is now. So I didn't know Ingida was waiting for, things to happen with children to grow up, because they were, we had infant children, 3, what they call them, stair steps. And he didn't feel that that was the proper time when the children were so young. But I think Solomon was at 10 or 12 years at that time. So that's how, and then Ingida and Tesfaye organized a group of Ethiopians in North America. They came from Canada, they came from all over the United States. They had a meeting, and this is how ANAPA was born. But prior to that, we came up with the name. What is this how are we going to help? Medical mission. What are we going to name it? So along the way, different things occurred. I don't know how many people we had at the meeting. How many people were there, the initial meeting? We rented a room at the hotel at the airport to accommodate everybody. It was like a conference. But they came from all over. And prior to that, we sent a survey out to determine how many people would be interested, and we got overwhelming response. So that is how it started. And then they determined what the mission would be, how many programs we would try and accommodate. But Ingida and with the team really changed the face of healthcare in Ethiopia.
Well, we're going to talk about, in a little more detail, about Dr. Asfaw, how you created a medical mission that really has transformed Ethiopia and healthcare in Ethiopia. But I want to go all the way back and to where it began. Now, I understand you were born in Ethiopia, and you were one of the first Mennonite in the first group of young Ethiopians who was trained by Mennonite missionaries. Can you tell us about that? What was that experience like?
It was a great experience, and early in my life, as I was growing up in Ethiopia, I met the Mennonite missionaries, and there was no formal, structured school, grades 1 through 8, as we know it in this country. And the missionary group were approached, Million, my friend, and I, and another person approached the missionary to open grades 6, 7, and 8, skipping the first 6 grades. And that is how, after I finished 8th grade, and actually when I was in the 6th grade, I was reading a book entitled Microbes.
Microbes?
Microbes.
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 Yeah, microbes. Okay. And that made people sick, and there's no remedy for them.
How microbes make people sick.
Yes.
Okay,
They're
I understand.
bacteria, virus, microbes. And so I was extremely interested in meeting the microbes and try to extinguish them. Someday, get my medical training and then come back to Ethiopia and do something, as there was no medical school, there was no formally structured healthcare education and training. And I was prepared to go back to Ethiopia after I finished my training and what I'm supposed to do. But then the political climate did not permit it, and I stayed here. So before I left Ethiopia, I made a promise to myself and to the people of Ethiopia, but someday I'm going to get training in medicine and come back, extend a helping hand. That is what happened. And the life continued from there. I never forgot my promise. I couldn't go back because of the political climate was not favorable, and started planning for an Asfaw to be born.
Well, Dr. Asfaw, it's fascinating. You're the second doctor I've had sit in that very seat where you're sitting, who told me that their desire to become a doctor started in the 6th grade. That's amazing. Do you know Dr. Andy Coleman, church member, the GYNOB?
Oh, yes.
She said the same thing.
Yes.
That's amazing. We're going to take a break in just a minute, but then when we return from the break, I want to talk a little more. I want you to talk a little more about the kinds of ways that you have helped to benefit Ethiopia in returning, in bringing back your medical training from the United States. So folks, stick around. We're going to take just a brief station break, and when we return, I'll be talking again with Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw and her husband, Dr. Ingida Asfaw, about a dynamic, very wonderful medical mission in Ethiopia, modern Ethiopia, and ways in which you might be able to help. We'll be right back.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and His power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
I'm speaking today with Dr. Ingida Asfaw and his wife, Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw, about a very, very worthwhile, wonderful medical mission in Ethiopia. And before the break, we were talking, and you were talking, Dr. Asfaw, Dr. Ingida Asfaw, about what led you to want to be a doctor. You said it was finding out more about microbes and how they could be a benefit to healthcare. And so you eventually made your way to the United States. And are you the first Ethiopian Mennonite student, or were there others ahead of you as part of the Mennonite missionaries?
Yeah, so after I finished 12th grade, I was able to receive offer to come to the United States, Eastern Mennonite University in Virginia. And I did my undergraduate work there. From there, I went to Indiana University. From there, I came to Wayne State University here in Detroit. And then for a very short while in Texas Heart Institute. And after I finished my cardiothoracic surgery training, I was going to go back. But as I mentioned earlier, the political climate was not favorable, and I stayed here on faculty of Wayne State University. However, while I'm working here at the university, I started organizing the INAPA, which is the Ethiopian North American Health Professionals Association, and made cross-country planning and brought 28 healthcare founding individuals of the organization and have our first meeting here in Detroit, Michigan. And from there, the organization kept growing. Membership was increasing. And it was the right time to have the diaspora group, the Ethiopian group that are in Michigan, actually North America, US, and Canada. And we had a meeting. Why we're meeting, in what condition, healthcare condition our country is, and commit ourselves to help through the mission. And there was a vision, there was a mission, and there was value in what we were going to do. We were all convinced and started moving in that direction. And
Now, Dr. Asfaw, let me just cut in for a minute because, we only have, I don't know, another 10 minutes or so in this segment. But, we're going to continue this dialogue because I want the audience to know more about the medical mission that you have and you've created in Ethiopia. But I have traveled with you 4 times to Ethiopia. And I met on one of my trips a young lady who received the first open heart surgery in all of Ethiopia that you did. And I know that your medical mission works in partnership with the Black Lion Hospital in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I know that you've created a maternal child hospital south of Addis Ababa in another big city called Awassa. And I also know that these medical missions that you have organized, the ones that I attended, you had maybe 80 or 90 health professionals, starting with doctors, pharmacists, nurses, and other well-wishers like myself. I was just a well-wisher. But I did take photos. As a matter of fact, when you look at some of the photos that are going to stream during this program, many of them are photos that I took. But tell us more about this, because these are very big missions. 80 or 90 doctors, and many of these doctors came at their own expense, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So, Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw, tell us a little more from your perspective, the significance of these medical missions that your husband has put together.
Well, if I can modify it a bit and tell you, my role was really supportive, really supporting Ingida in his vision and what he wanted to do. So how did we do that? The first trip was a fact-finding mission. When they came back and they wanted to, what do the people need?
And what year was that?
Oh gosh, thank you.
2001?
Yes. And the fact-finding mission, Sophia accompanied her father. So what the ANAPA members decided, we're not going to go over there and tell the people what they need. They're going to tell us what they need. One of the areas that I got involved in was maternal child health. We found that the rate of morbidity and mortality was very, very high in Ethiopia. Mothers dying and their babies dying.
So for our audience, look at the photos that are streaming right now as Dr. Liz Asfaw talks about the Maternal Child Center, because these are photos of when the Maternal Child Hospital first started.
Right.
Okay.
And one area, we found that a lot of these lives could be saved because infections really caused a lot the death. There were different causes, but infection of the mother not having delivering in a clean environment was one of the major reasons for the death. So what could we do? I belong to an international organization, Greater Wayne County chapter of the Links, and we put together a program where we would provide, they call them birthing kits or mama kits, for the women who were expecting. We sent initially 500 kits from, I believe it was Uganda. And in these particular kits, they had things that were needed to have a safe and clean delivery. Razor blades, coil to tie the umbilical cord, soap. And they also had instructions for the family member. Usually it was a family member who was delivering the baby, and a blanket to have when the baby came out. Because you were in Ethiopia, you saw the housing in rural areas. They call them tukos, but they're really kind of, we call them mud huts. And then they had a little thing where I guess a makeshift bed. So in order to prevent the deaths due to infection, we felt that sanitizing situation would really be helpful. What we found is that through ANAPA and the Greater Wayne County chapters initiative and effort, the mortality child death was significantly reduced to the point, and we can give you the statistics later, that was less than the maternal child death in the city of Detroit today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So we really made an impact with that, with the help of the Greater Wayne County chapter of the Links.
Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw, and Dr. Ingida Asfaw, I want to thank you so much for being part of this program today. I invited you because I really want this audience, and this is a worldwide audience. It's a United States national audience looking at this program, but it's also worldwide. And I want people to know the good work that you're doing. And if there are persons who are looking at this program today who would like to know more about what you've heard from Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw, Dr. Ingida Asfaw, you can go to ENAPA, Ethiopian North American Health Professions Association. You put a www before that, .com, and you can learn more about it. Or if you go to Nick Hood III Ministries, go to my website. At the very bottom, there is a section which talks about this Ethiopian healthcare mission that the doctors Asfaw are part of. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. For the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking with Dr. Ingida Asfaw. Today we started with the queen of the family, Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw. But next week we're going to talk with Dr. Ingida Asfaw and his daughter, Dr. Zuditu Asfaw. And so I hope you will, make a little mental note to yourself and look forward to, learning more about this. And one quick question: if a person wants to donate to ENAPA, E-N-A-P-H-A,
Yes.
Ethiopian North American Health Professions Association, is that possible through your website?
Yes, it is possible.
So it's possible.
Yes.
And I want to thank you for looking at the program today. And to Dr. Ingida Asfaw, Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw, you are modern day missionaries. You are a doctor. You're a medical doctor, Dr. Ingida Asfaw, but you're more than a medical doctor. And Dr. Elizabeth Asfaw, you're more than a doctor. You are a missionary because you are spreading good news and health. So again, on behalf of myself, Nick Hood, I want to thank you for looking at the program today. What I didn't tell you is that Doctors Asfaw, both of them are members of my church. And my church raised the first $10,000 for their medical mission. And I tell you, I've never felt more gratified in my life. God bless, God keep you, and remember, I am praying for you.
Thank you for watching today's program. We hope you've been blessed in a powerful way. Just knowing you took the time to watch today's broadcast is a great encouragement to Pastor Nick Hood. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you, we ask that you mail a tax-free donation to Nicholas Hood Ministries at 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.